I'm Jay Taylor. I'm the editor of Jay Taylor's Gold Energy and Tech Stocks, a newsletter. And I'm here at the Metals Investor Forum in Vancouver, September 29th, 2018, with Kelly Earle, and she is the Vice President Communications of Skeena Resources.
Hi,
Good
Jay.
to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
Skeena trades in Toronto under the symbol SKE. There's about 90 million shares.
90
I
million,
guess,
yes.
Outstanding. Market cap of around 45, 50 million
Just
in that
below
range.
50.
So you have a couple of really key assets, really very attractive assets that I think not too many people were paying attention to. Barrick had both of them, and
Yes.
you managed to gain them. The one is, and two of the highest grade gold deposits in British Columbia, if not in all of Canada. The Snip mine, the first one, both of them are in the Golden Triangle of British Columbia. The Snip mine was the first one that you picked up, and you've done some work on it, and now you've had a very interesting option agreement with Hochschild, a very large Peruvian company. So talk to us about Snip and what you're planning to do there.
So Snip's a past producing mine in the Golden Triangle, produced in the 90s when the price of gold was much lower. There was also less infrastructure in the area in the 90s. So our thesis for acquiring the project was what gold was left behind that was below the cutoff grade that existed. So when the mine was in operation, the cutoff grade started at 12 grams per ton. And as the price of gold declined, the cutoff grade rose all the way up to 24 grams per ton. Incredible. So there's been huge changes in infrastructure. There's now a hydroelectric facility within about 17 kilometers of Snip, and Highway 37 and the Northwest Transmission Line. So we own the project 100% outright. We acquired it from Barrick. And we've been drilling since 2016. We just wrapped up an underground drill program. And very exciting, the deal you just mentioned, we signed an option deal with Hochschild. They made an equity investment into the company for about 8.3%, and that earned them a right to acquire a 60% interest in Snip within the next 3 years. So we're very excited about that. If they wanted to come into Snip for 60%, they'd have to spend 2 times our cumulative expenditures to date. So to date, we spent about 20 million. So if they pulled the trigger now, they'd have to spend 40. And the longer they wait, the more they'd have to spend. So it's a great deal for us. We take it as validation for the project. Hochschild, if you're not that familiar with them, they specialize in narrow, high-grade underground mining. They're Peruvians. They're very good at it. We're excited to be working with them, and a member of the Hochschild team will join the Skeena board as well.
Wonderful. I believe they actually paid a premium for the shares.
So they paid about a 40% premium, but then we were able to swap that through the flow-to tax credit. So it turned out to be about an 80% premium to our share price, which was great because it's less dilutive for our shareholders.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, that's the Snip.
Yes.
And hopefully they'll start to progress that towards production, and I guess once they fulfill their 2 times expenditure, then you have to put up 40% of your share.
Yes, they'll become the operators, but we do have all they have to agree with us in terms of operating decisions, construction decisions, drilling, and everything like that. So we do still have a voice along the way, and they're keen to have our guidance because we know the Golden Triangle so well.
Excellent. Okay, so SK Creek, which you picked up more recently.
Yes.
And you actually have come out with a resource at SK Creek before Snip. And by the way, we should mention, I think you're going to have a resource at Snip Q1 next year?
That's the plan. So the reason being, unfortunately, we don't have the drill core or the assay certificates for Snip, so we had to do a lot more duplication infill drilling. We found that the data is a bit spotty because the cutoff grade was so high, they didn't sample completely from top to bottom. So we've had to do a bit more drilling there, but the target for the resource is Q1 of 2019. SK Creek, on the other hand, we had all the QA, QC quality certificates for the assays, so we were able to put out a resource before we put the first drill hole into the ground, essentially. So.
And tell us about that resource.
Sure.
It's very high grade.
It is. So we inherited about 700,000 meters of assay data because it's a historical mine, produced 3.3 million ounces of gold at a staggering 45 grams per ton, 160 million ounces of silver at over 2,000 grams per ton. So again, the thesis was the same as Snip. What material was left behind that was below the extremely high cutoff grade? So it was a 12 to 15 gram per ton cutoff for the mill feed and a 30 gram per ton cutoff for the direct shipping ore. So we're looking at the material that's left behind. Pretty impressive, isn't it?
Very impressive, and again, infrastructure improvements too since the last mine.
There's road access all the way to site. It used to be diesel powered, and now there's a hydroelectric facility within a few kilometers with
Big
4
difference.
cents a kilowatt hour
Big
power.
advantage now.
Yes,
I would
huge.
think so.
So as for the resource itself, there's just over 1 million ounces in the indicated category, about 850,000 ounces in the inferred category. About 1.1 million ounces is underground, and that's averaging 10 grams per ton.
Nice.
And then there's 2 proposed open pits where there's about 800,000 ounces, and that's averaging 5 grams per ton. So very high grade. Yes.
5 grams for open
pit, yes.
That's amazing.
It
really,
is.
It really is. So what are your plans going forward then? You have the resource. There's a lot more exploration to do there.
So one of the first things we're going to do is, I mentioned there's a large portion of the resource that's in the inferred category. That's mostly in the 2 open pit areas, and that's because they were never mined before, so they weren't drilled on as high a density. So we're doing infill drilling right now to bring inferred up to indicated, and then we're also doing metallurgical test work as well, because there are deleterious elements at Escape, so we want to make sure that we start the metallurgical work right away to think about how we could process the ore in the future.
And you have some base metals there too that
Yes.
you haven't really factored in
Yeah,
so far.
we were keen to get the resource out, so we just focused on gold and silver, but there is lead, silver, zinc, and also antimony. So once we get the SNP resource out, we'll go back to Escape and look at all the base metal credits that we could get as well.
Very good.
Yes.
And are you pretty well cashed up now, I suppose?
Yeah, so
in good shape?
after
You
the
just-
deal with Hostile, which is
Yeah.
just in the process of closing right now, we'll be at about 7.5 million in cash. So
That's pretty good.
Yes.
Drivers then, I guess you have a lot of assays coming out now.
So yeah, we've only put 3 holes out for SK Creek so far, so those should continue, well into November. So lots of news flow to come. We mentioned the SNP resource coming out in the new year, so definitely lots of great news to come from Skeena.
Well, a lot of reason to keep an eye on your stock.
Yes.
I own the stock.
So do I.
I'll bet you do, and probably more than I, given your position. But anyway, really looking forward to it. It's, I think, a very exciting story.
So do we. We're very excited with the 2 projects we have and look forward to advancing them further.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for spending some time with us
Thanks,
today.
Jay.
All right.